Hi folks, time for another book haul. So these were all acquired, let's think, last Friday, which would have been the 8th, I think, of September. I was in my usual haunt, the Oxfam Bookshop in Woodley, and somebody had very kindly donated in the previous day or two quite a large collection of science fiction anthologies. So all of these books that I'm going to share with you today are anthologies of all shapes and sizes and from various eras. So the first three are Andromeda, which is, this one's edited by Peter Weston. As far as I can tell, there are only three of them, and I have all three of them, and they're in absolutely pristine condition. This one dates back to 1976. It's a Futura edition. I'll just show you if you're interested, and I know you are, which stories are in this book. You can see there are some familiar names: Aldous, Michael Coney, Bob Shaw, Holdstock, Christopher Priest, George R.R. Martin, Harlan Ellison. So you know, it's all killer, no filler, at least from an author point of view. So there's 10 stories in there. And then there's Andromeda 2. Same guy, Peter Weston editing. Again in fantastic condition, it's basically spotless. And this was published in 1977. Can you see that? Yeah. So Bob Shaw again, Robert Holdstock. Actually, the only two names that I particularly recognise. The rest of them are new to me. That's interesting. And we have Andromeda 3. Quite a nice cover. It gets perhaps in slightly less pristine condition than the others, but still very good. And this one is from 1978, I think. Yeah, I did from a quick check online, I couldn't find any reference to an Andromeda 4 or beyond, so I think there were just 3 of them. And that's who's in this one. Another Christopher Priest, Fritz Lieber, Larry Niven, Ian Watson, that's a name I recognise. But that's the only one. So I think Andromeda must have been a magazine. I think that's right. People more knowledgeable and buying magazines at the time will be able to tell me. So the next set is another set of 3, although there are actually 4 of them, I gather, but I only have the first 3. Got Continuum 1. There are, as I say, there are 4. Edited by Roger Elwood, and this is a US edition from Barclay Science Fiction, or Berkeley I suppose it would be if you're in the US. I gather this is a bit different to a typical short story collection in that there are 8 stories in each one, and each one has stories by the same authors. It's the same set of authors, and each one follows on from the other. So there's a story, for example, by Philip Jose Farmer in the first book, and there'll be another one in the second book, another one in the third book, and another one in the fourth book, and they will follow on. Which is quite a unique take on a short story collection. So I think that's quite cool. So now obviously I need to get the 4th one if I'm going to read them, because I'll be a cliffhanger. Again, this is in pretty good condition, nice clean spine. Pretty nice. And then this is volume 2. Again, it's the same. I didn't show you the contents list from the first one. Hold on. Bear with. Can you see that? So there are stories by Philip Jose Farmer, Paul Anderson, Chad Oliver, Thomas Scotia, so those are 2 names I don't particularly know, Anne McCaffrey, Gene Wolfe, Edgar Pangborn, and Dean R. Koontz, who I know as a horror writer. So this first one was published in 1974. Second one It's the same authors, as I said, different story obviously, but each one follows on from the previous. And I think they were asked to write stories specifically for this publication in that format, episodes 1, 2, 3, 4. So they, I think, can be read with one or two exceptions as standalone stories, but they do thematically follow on from each other. So that's volume 2. And that's volume 3. And I will have to look out for volume 4. Right then, so the next set were all on a shelf together. It was about a span of that wide of books. And I nearly kind of wet myself in excitement because it's very rare that you see that kind of thing. So you might have heard of Corgi's New Writings in SF. It was started in 1964. So there were a whole bunch of them. Initially I thought it was all of them from book 1 to book 30 where the series finished. It's not quite that, but it's not far off. There are a few missing. So this is New Writings in SF, book 1, edited by John Carnell. So that has, and these stories were all written specifically for the series. At least book 1 was. I don't know about the rest. Yeah, so it says on the back here, New Writings in SF, both in this first volume and in those volumes to come. I assume all 30, but I don't know if they continued that. Lives up to its name and does not present old material already published many times. The editor will also be encouraging new methods and techniques of storytelling. So that's a bit borderline radical. So it's quite slender. There are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this, covering 180 odd pages. So quite one or two of them quite lengthy stories. The first one, Key to Chaos, is 60 odd pages, which is pretty long for a short story. There's I think in each one there's a foreword from the editor, John Carnell. So that one is a first edition from 1965, I believe. Sorry, 1960. Actually, it's not. It's a reprint. It's a 1965 reprint. 1964 would have been the first edition. This one's definitely a reprint. You can tell by the jazzier cover it's probably from the 1970s. It was originally published in 1965, and this is a 1970 reissue. You know, so it's still over 50 years old, and it's in pretty good condition. At some point somebody sold it for 20p. I did not pay 20p for it, unfortunately. Again, New Writings brings to lovers of science fiction strange, exciting stories written especially for the series by international authors. Who's in this one? This has got a few more stories in it. 2, 4, 6, 8 this time. Very small. Less well-known authors than the first one. Here's another 70s reprint. Cool cover. Abstract naked lady. Can't resist a naked lady on a front cover, can they? So that's SF3. Again, in pretty good condition. This one is a reprint from 1970 as well. So Frederick Pohl, Keith Roberts, names that I recognise. There are others I don't. See if you can detect a pattern. SF4. New Writings in SF4. With a silhouette this time of a scantily clad lady. This is also a reprint from 1971 this time. It seems like they published 2 a year, roughly, 1 to 2 a year. Asimov this time, Keith Roberts again, and some of the names are becoming familiar now, repeating. Colin Capp is in this one as well. Now, I didn't pick up book 5, although it was on the shelves, because I already have it. Yeah, so I already have this one. So it won't cover that one. And then we're back, we're not in reprint land anymore, we're in first printings now. Very obviously 60s cover. Books priced in shillings and pence. So that's volume 6. Originally published in 1966, first edition. Roberts again, E.C. Tubb, the only names I recognise. And here's volume 7, another 60s cover. Actually, it says on the back cover here that New Writings in SF is a quarterly publication. I don't know if they maintained that pace, but certainly at the beginning there were 4 a year published. Yes, this is from 1966. Keith Roberts is the only one of those I recognise. And then we got volume 9, so I don't have 8, I think that's right. Yeah, it goes from 7 to 9, so the 8 was missing. And that one has Vincent King's the only name I recognise in there. And then volume 10. And now it's published 3 times a year. So it was quarterly, now it's 3 times a year. This one's from 1967, and that has Brian Aldiss, Thomas Dish. And volume 11. And that has some repeating names again. Vincent King's in this one too, John Rackham's in this one, Douglas Mason, he was in the last one too, John Rankin is another familiar name. So he obviously had like a stable of writers that he went to tap up for new stories. There was no book 12, that was not on the shelf, but I do have 13. John Harrison in this one is the main one that I recognise, a book called a story called The Macbeth Expiation. And then we go to book 14 with more incompletely clad ladies, 2 of them this time. That's a bit gratuitous, isn't it? Another M. John Harrison in this one. It's the only name I recognise. And then book 15. Six or 7 stories this time. Christopher Priest, Michael Coney, Keith Roberts, Vincent King. So we go straight from 15 to 19, so we're missing 16, 17 and 18. So Christopher Priest, Michael Coney, Kenneth Bulmer, Vincent King, a few names I recognise. Then we go to book 20. The covers on these I quite like. They're getting a bit wackier as time goes on. We're well into the 70s now, I should think. Yeah, this is 1972. Hold Stock, Coney. There's only 2, 4, 6 stories in that one, so some of them are fairly long. And then we go to 21. In really good condition. A couple of chips on the spine, but really it's in good condition. They all are, really. Michael Coney again, Keith Roberts, regular contributors it seems. 22. And you might have noticed, yeah, so 21 was the last one that John Carnyle edited. He sadly died. So this one is on the back, it says it's dedicated to John Carnyle, who edited the previous 21 editions and who died in 1972. Features stories from the many celebrated writers who came forward and offered pieces for this memorial volume, including Harry Harrison, E.C. Tubb, Arthur C. Clarke, James White, Brian Aldiss, Christopher Priest. So, again, in fantastic condition. So we're missing 23, so we go straight to 24. I think the rest of the series is edited by the same guy, Kenneth Bulmer. Aldiss. And the rest of them I don't recognise at all. Number 25, in really nice condition. Some wraparound art this time. The others have all had, or nearly all had, a black or blue rear. So in this one, there's almost nobody that I recognise. We're missing 26, so we go straight to 27. Another naked lady with a randy looking lion. Let's see who's in this one. Aldiss, Michael G. Coney, The rest of them are new to me. I'm coming to the finish line with these ones. Kenneth Bulmer, editing again, book 28, and these last three I think are my favourite covers. I really like the way that the livery went for these editions. 28 was published in 1977, so we've got Brian Aldiss, Robert Holstock, E.C. Tubb are the only ones I recognise. And then we've got 29, which is really nice as well. Fantastic condition. So who have we got in here? Aldiss again, E.C. Tubb again, other names I don't recognise. And then lastly for these ones, there are more, so don't go away. Book 30, which is, of the lot, I think there are a few which are in similarly, but this is basically mint, I think. Book 30. Some of the same authors again, Aldiss, Tubb, Keith Roberts. So there are like, let's call it 8 in each one. Some of them are a bit less, some of them are a bit more, and there are, I don't know, 25 of them. So that's 200 short stories in that little lot-ish. To keep me going, I'm just going to put them down. My short story action did not stop there. Taking up one or more shelves in this Oxfam bookshop were a whole bunch of the Gardner Dozois edited Best New SF stroke the Mammoth Book of Best New SF. It depends whether they were published in the UK or the US. And these books have a very confusing numbering system. So this is it's a UK publisher, St Martin's Press I think it is. Robinson, beg your pardon. Robinson Press. And so the UK editions of this book didn't start until what would have been book 3 or 4 of the book 4 of the US series. So there were a few in the US before the UK ones were even published. The best way I found of keeping track of it is to just look at which year it covers. So this covers 1987 as a year, so that's short stories from that year that Gardner Dozois considered to be the best. And so this was published in 1988. I think the first US one was covered 1984. So if you get the first one in the US, which is quite hard to find, then that covers 1984. So yes, Best New SF. I won't try to show you well, why not? So as it says, quite often it says something along the lines of over 300,000 words of short stories. So some, as you may have seen, some of the authors in here, let's see, Bruce Sterling, Ursula Le Guin, Robert Silverberg, Octavia Butler, Gene Wolfe, Orson Scott Card, Kim Stanley Robinson. So there's a whole bunch in here, and each of these books has a sort of 20 or so page introduction by the editor, which talks about what's gone on in the world of SF, which might be short stories, it might be novels, it might even be movies or TV programs. So it's a little historical record, if you like. Actually, I think it would profit somebody to put together a volume of his introductions. That might be quite interesting. But anyway, I'm looking forward to reading those. So that's number 2. There's volume 3, which would have been volume 7, I think, or 6 of the US editions. That covers 1989, I think. 1988, beg your pardon. Yeah, so this would have been, in the US, this would have been published as the 6th annual collection. So who's in this one? Who've we got? Stableford, Turtle Dove, Connie Willis, Bruce Sterling, Silverberg again, Stableford again, Kim Stanley Robinson, Michael Swanwick. So, royalty, and again with a summary by Gardner Dozois. So then we got book 4. There's some cool art on the covers of these. They're all typically wraparound art too. So who've we got? Charles Sheffield, Gregory Benford, Connie Willis, Silverberg, Sterling, Nancy Kress, Michael Swanwick, Silverberg again, John Varley, Brian Stableford, Avram Davidson. So, you know, these are not messing around. There's some science fiction royalty in these books. Okay, so volume 5. Again, super chunky books with the wraparound art. Ursula Le Guin, Charles Sheffield, Bruce Sterling, Lucius Shepard, Michael Moorcock. Ted Chiang is in this one, Tower of Babylon. That's in his the short story anthology of his, collection of his rather, the name of which I can't remember, the one that has the story that became Arrival. Story of Your Life, is it? So Tower of Babylon is in that one. Nancy Kress, Greg Egan, Connie Willis, Ian MacDonald, Robert Silverberg. So again, stellar list. Volume 6, which covers 1991. So who we got in here? Nancy Kress again, Greg Egan, Ian MacLeod, Robert Silverberg, Gregory Benford, Kim Stanley Robinson, Ian MacDonald again, Greg Egan, Brian Aldiss, Connie Willis. So, you know, it's all good stuff. And then volume 7, which for some reason is in a bigger trade paperback size. The later books seem to come in that size. Anyway, who's in it? Swanwick, Connie Willis, Els Brogder Camp, Greg Egan, Nancy Kress, Robert Silverberg, Arthur C. Clarke, Joe Haldeman. Let's see, Ian MacDonald again, Frederick Pohl. You know, it's all good stuff. And then for reasons which I don't understand, so that was 1992. For 1993, the book, when it was published in the UK, was just called The Best New SF. Like that, to my mind, that should be the first one. I don't know why it was called that. It's a bit random. But anyway, as I said, the easiest thing to do is just look at the year that it covers, and it covers 1993. Sterling, Kress, Willis, Aldiss, Resnick, Charles Sheffield, Haldeman again, Stephen Baxter making an appearance, Dan Simmons. And then I jump from 1993 to 2003, so I've got 10 missing, which I will now feel obliged to find. So again, pretty cool artwork. Kind of wrap around, not so much this time. So at some point around here, between the last one and this one, they started being called the Mammoth Book of Best New SF. Quantity as well as quality. Boom, 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 boom. Charles Stross, first one that I've seen him appear in. Nancy Kress, John Varley, Michael Swanwick again, Verna Vinge, Harry Turtledove. Alright, so pretty good stuff. Let's get the next pile. Oh my goodness. Right, so 18. Super fat again. So this covers 2004. Nancy Kress, Michael Flynn, M. John Harrison, Verna Vinge again, Stephen Baxter, Peter F. Hamilton. Some of the older era guys are seeming to sort of drop off at this point, presumably because quite a lot of them had died, or maybe weren't writing short stories anymore, or both. MacDonald, Alistair Reynolds, that's the first one, I think, first sight of him. Ken MacLeod, first one of his I've seen. Bruce Sterling again, Stephen Baxter again, Vonda McIntyre, Gene Wolfe, Turtledove, Hanu Ryanami, Neil Asher, Alistair Reynolds again with Zima Blue, Peter Watts, Elizabeth Bear, Joe Haldeman, so getting more familiar to me. And then we've got let's see, book 20, which is from 2006. Cory Doctorow, Robert Charles Wilson, Ian MacDonald, Alistair Reynolds, Gregory Benford. Quick scan through. Let's see. Greg Egan, Elizabeth Bear, Ken MacLeod, Stephen Baxter, Alistair Reynolds again. Here's book 21. This one was actually an ex-library book, so it's slightly more beaten up than the others. Ken MacLeod again, Ian MacDonald, Greg Egan, Robert Silverberg, Neil Asher, Ted Chiang, Bruce Sterling, Stephen Baxter, Alistair Reynolds, Ian MacDonald. Some repetitions in this one. Nancy Kress, Gregory Benford. 22. You know, some of the same names in this. Baxter, Swanwick, Paolo Bacigalupi, Elizabeth Bear, Alistair Reynolds, Ian MacDonald, Paul Macaulay, Greg Egan, Hanny Ryanami again, Paul Macaulay again, Nancy Kress. Book 23. It's got Robert Charles Wilson, Bruce Sterling, Paul Macaulay, Peter Watts, Elizabeth Bear, Nancy Kress, so Ian MacDonald. So there's a few names, begin to be a few more names I don't recognise. Book 24. Peter Watts, Tad Williams, Nina Allen, Cory Doctorow again, Yoon-Ha Lee, Stephen Baxter, Michael Swanwick, Alistair Reynolds. So this covers 2010. Book 25, covering 2011. Macaulay, Bear, MacLeod, Swanwick, Baxter, MacDonald, Reynolds, Michael Flynn, Swanwick again, Yoon-Ha Lee. And then I don't have 26. And then I've got the truly enormous volume 27, which is enormous. I don't know what format that is. It looks like a D or an E even format. It's huge. Let's see. Nancy Kress, Paul Macaulay, Greg Egan, Alistair Reynolds, Nancy Kress again, Ken Liu, who is the guy that translated... Is he the guy that translated Cixin Liu's Three Body Problem? I think so. Ian MacDonald, Brendan Dubois, Neil Asher. So that's volume 27. And I've got 28, which is a bit bashed up on the front, unfortunately. Still substantially in good condition. You've got MacDonald, Ken Liu again, Paolo Bacigalupi, Elizabeth Bear, Doctorow, Peter Watts, Swanwick, Reynolds, Jay Lake, Elizabeth Bear again, Carl Schroeder, Gareth Powell, first time I've seen him, Adam Roberts. Right, and the last one that I have is book 29, which covers 2015. I'm actually not sure where it stopped because he passed away, unfortunately. I think it the series died with him. So who's in this one? Ian MacDonald, Anne Leckie, James S.A. Corey, he of The Expanse, or they of The Expanse, Ian MacDonald, Paolo Bacigalupi again, Nancy Kress, Paul Macaulay, and there's some more here. Nick Harkaway, he of Nomon. So that's pretty cool. So I walked away with two massive kind of bag for life shopping bags, jam packed with these books. It did cost me a few quid. You know, they were basically the thinner ones like these were $1.99 each, and the big fat Gardner Dozois ones were $2.49, I think. So I did drop like £100 in the shop, but I came away with a lot of short stories. I don't know how many, it must be in excess of 1,000. I haven't actually totaled them up, but it's a lot of short stories anyway. And it's given me some collecting joy. I have some gaps to fill, so I've got to go find those at some point. So that should keep me busy for a little while. I think I'm going to have to put some short story books or partial books on my TBR piles for each month going forward, because I've got a lot. I had a lot already and now I've got loads. But that's it. Until next time, thank you for watching. Bye for now.